Hello, everybody. It's your old friends at Nerds or Us, and welcome back to another episode of Best of All Worlds. I'm joined once again by the man to know, Jerry Soul, as we're about to kick off what is going to be a very intriguing three-parter of sorts, Jerry. I think is a nice way of saying it.
Yeah.
So we are starting off. We are going back to Next Generation for this episode because you had a wonderful voyage across all the other shows. We're going back to terra firma, if you will, if you forgive the Latin. And we're going into season 2 this time because that is the first time we're doing season 2 on the show. And we're doing a very important episode called Q Who. Now, again, if you know your Q episodes, you'll know why it's important. But for the uninitiated, Jerry Soul, why is this episode so important?
This episode is probably one of the most important episodes of Next Generation because it is our first glimpse into what effectively is known as the supervillains of Star Trek, which would be the Borg.
Yes.
And it's a very first look at who they are, but we see who they are, but we don't know what their story is. And even now, they're still kind of vaguely know little bits, but it's when we first meet the Borg and you just see how dangerous they are. And a lot of, you look at the episode, you think, well, this is like Q punishing them once again. It's not so much them being punished. It's more along the lines of he's genuinely warning them. If they had no warning and the Borg turned up, that was it. The Starfleet and Federation were dead. They needed this warning. Now it's just unfortunate that the events happened, but we'll get there in the episode anyway.
Indeed we will. And like I said, there will be a reason why we are going to be doing this. We mentioned the last episode anyway, but in case you didn't, this is very much a prelude to a starter to the main course that we're going to have in the next episode. So best to strap yourself in now, lads, if you're watching on the playlist. So Jerry, are you ready to rock?
Ready.
All right then. So let's do it on 3, 2, 1. I really hope I can have that after effect in, or else we both look tits.
So do I. I hope as well.
I live in hope. And this is Sonia Gomez.
Yeah.
We heard so much about. Is it fair to say, Jerry, that Sonia Gomez was the Tilly of the Next Generation before they made Tilly a main character?
Yes, I think so, actually. When you put it like that, yes. Yeah.
Like one of those like proto like non-Starfleet like production like mill of ensigns and lieutenants. Someone who actually has a personality.
Yeah. She's likable though. She is likable.
Very likable. Yeah. I'm actually, it was so disappointed she's only in like 2 or 3 episodes because I thought she was a great supporting like actor, you know.
She is in Lower Decks though.
Because she's a captain in the Lower Decks, as you find out. We'll be discussing that on in the Guest Among the Stars section.
Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have this in engineering. It's just we were talking. I forgot I had it in my hand. I'm gonna go finish it over here.
I'm gonna go into a corner and drink my coffee like a normal person. It's not as if like this like
Actually, it's my fault, sir. It's all over you.
Yes, it's all over me.
Excuse me, sir.
Ensign.
Oh, Ensign Sonia Gomez. Ensign Gomez is a recent Academy graduate, Captain. She just transferred over at Starbase.
And as you can see, she's as clumsy as anything else.
Well, excellent.
Yeah, and likes touching up the captain.
Yes, she was really going tonto on fucking
She
Patrick
was.
Stewart.
Don't lie, you do the same.
In fairness, yeah. Hey,
even now at the age of 81, you do the same.
You miss every shot you don't take, isn't that what they say? Oh yeah, you spilled your coffee on the captain. Oh yeah, that old chestnut.
I hope you wiped it up.
Ladies. I love
the look.
Again, we will never know why Picard wanted to come down to engineering. He's now just like, well, Well, that's my.
But you never know.
rule.
She could have saved the Enterprise. Could be come down warp core breach. Let's go, lads.
Yeah.
We just never know. Oh,
I love the camera shot.
you just know it's something's happening.
They never do that angle. It's just like, oh, it's on a rail. Oh shit. Oh, great transition.
Yeah.
Completely seamless.
What is going on? Shuttlecraft.
There he is.
There haven't we been careless? A little cleaning, sir. I'm happy to provide.
Wouldn't you love to be able to do that?
Oh, that would be just so good.
Oh, you'd love to be able to do that.
Yeah.
We're nowhere near your best.
Being a god is so easy, lads. You know, just making our lives so much handier.
I have to say, see this particular shuttle, was not a fan.
This. Oh, yeah, right.
The
yeah.
look of the outside and the inside, I was never a fan of it.
No. I think it's also as well that we're so used to the Danube class, the runabouts, when they look like actual tiny little ships. You know,
you when you look at the runabout and the size of the runabouts compared to a shuttle, like you could, you know, a runabout is a small ship rather than a shuttle.
Definitely, yeah.
It's only in the Next Generation that you actually get to see the back of it, basically like a kind of like the crew area, the crew quarter areas, and kind of there's tables there and whatnot. You don't get to see that in Deep Space Nine, where runabouts predominantly are.
Yeah, like it's more of a case of like they were learning how they were making the runabouts on DS9, and they kind of like work backwards. Because I know the episode you're thinking of where like it was like season 7, and they had like a little kind of crew communal area. Yeah. It was like that's clearly a set they have in mind for the runabouts, but it suits TNG better because it's brighter and cleaner. Whereas they were kind of going for a dingier, murkier type of setting for DS9. So yeah, I see what you mean with that. Yeah. If you're having this conversation on shuttles, my favorite one is the one from Enterprise. It's just little rockets. It's like me. They're my favorite ones.
Tiny little things. I am partial now to the Delta Flyer.
Oh yeah.
But you would kind of put the Delta Flyer in the same category as a Danube.
As a runabout. I wouldn't call it a shuttle.
Would. No, it's definitely not a shuttle because, you know, a shuttle, you couldn't really sleep on a shuttle. No, well, I suppose you could, but you'd be on the floor. Whereas a runabout or the Delta Flyer, sleeping facilities.
Yeah,
you know,
self-sufficient,
everything you need. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I like the fact that on a Danube, you've got that huge torpedo pod on the top. And like,
yes, this thing can work, can defend itself if needed. Yeah. It's probably one of the biggest weaknesses of the shuttles were. So it literally was an answer to why we keep losing fucking shuttles in space.
Shuttles only ever had the 2 forward-firing phases. That's all.
Yes, and they're like fucking pea shooters, like these spitting fucking lumps of paper or something, you know.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gomez's gun. I don't know why, but I do like it a good Chekhov's gun if it's done well.
Yeah.
No. You see, it works here fine, but if she says it, if it's said like 2 or 3 different times in the episode, that's when you're beating it over the head. Like you do it once and say nothing ever again, okay?
Oh, just look at that ship.
Oh, hey, Guinan.
Oh, yes. Guinan, yeah.
Yes. Introduced in season 2, of course. Oh.
And she knows. I love that fact. Yeah. I love that there are things about Guinan we don't know about. And she can sense things. The fact in yesterday's Enterprise, she knew it was like, this isn't supposed to happen. What's going on here? I love that she has those powers. I love that she has that intuition. And I'm hoping we're going to see a bit more of that when we see Guinan in Picard.
Yeah. Like if
I'm hoping I hope it's not like one episode. I'm hoping she's in the series. Like
I would say so, because for someone like her, going with the storyline they're telling, she kind of needs to be in the full run, or she comes in to save the day type of
thing. Or at the very least, multiple episodes.
Yes, like how Riker was deployed.
Yes,
Riker wasn't overused in a sense.
Riker, or even 7 of 9.
7 of 9, yeah. And there's premium Riker. Look at that. What a fucking man.
I like to think I'm the ginger Riker.
You are rocking the same hair, to be fair. You know, just saying.
Very similar, and the beard is very similar as well.
Yes. I'm going for a kind of mirror Picard. That's my kind of vibe right now, including the Adidas top. Very much of the brand's mirror Picard.
Mirror Picard was big into his sports.
Very materialist, yeah. I love as well. I see Worf was like Riker turned to Worf and go, anything wrong? The first thing he goes was like, nope, all of our torpedoes are here. Nope, everything's fine. I really do love the way like Q acts as the little imp on the shoulder. He's so. Can you not? Could that kind of think of a better actor to play this than John Delancey? Someone who absolutely fucking owns the role.
So good. I would have loved to see him in, say, Enterprise or even Discovery.
Yeah.
You know, even Discovery, to have him there as well.
Would have been interesting, all right, yeah.
Yeah. I know we got him a little bit in Lower Decks, which was cool.
Lower Decks. Yeah, that was fun. I suppose because it's animated, you are allowed to do that, but there's nothing to say you can do it in Prodigy, I guess.
Yeah.
Deanna even senses something now.
Mm-hmm.
There's a shuttle missing from Bay 2. All stop.
All stop. The captain's gone walkies again. This happens literally once a month.
Somebody up his meds, for God's sake.
For fuck's sake, people.
I've hailed the shuttle on all frequencies. No response. Sensors indicate no shuttle or other ship.
They're like going just get like a fourth pip out of his pocket and going.
Finally get the hot seat.
I want to begin a methodical search. Work. Set sensors on maximum scan.
Even the frequencies we don't want to use.
Present location is a center. Plot a search pattern from these coordinates to cover the most area in the least time.
And Wesley, I want you to go to the main observation deck and start shouting, "Hello!" out the window. Captain!
If we just get Wesley to do it, then at the end of the day, he'd be like, "Shut up, Wesley." Oh, there he is.
Yeah, there you go. we put Will Wheaton on like a big megaphone.
Although that is the assumption on which we are proceeding. The last 6 hours
spinning.
Searching without success. We've covered the area in a spherical pattern, which is absolutely without work.
But if you've done it in three dimensions, data. No, I don't think you have.
So Data is a vessel without warp drive. Okay.
Yes.
But yet, the shuttle has warp engines.
Yeah. I like to think that Q has been like manifesting different toys at each time. So he has a ball this time, but an hour ago he's playing with a squeaky toy.
Yeah, well, I'd imagine Picard would get very worried if he decided to fucking dildo appeared in his hand. Oh shit!
Q. Oh, fine. Oh, seamless. Oh, fucking. Oh, love these. Just the way he was able to do that. So seamless.
Yeah. There she is.
Oh, this is great.
My status report indicates the shuttle is back at Bay 2. Computers locate Captain Picard.
Little smug smile on his face. But he doesn't call him. Like, let's just call Picard. No.
We're there going like, Q. Also, this is our first look into 10 forwards on the show, by the way.
Yeah. Is this Guinet's first episode?
In our run, yes, but she was in previous episodes in season 2.
Those dealings were 2 centuries.
I don't get the hand actions, lads. I'm not going to lie.
This creature is not what she appears to be. She's an imp, and where she goes, trouble all.
And what does that make you, Q?
You're speaking of yourself, Q, not Guinet. Guinet. Is that your name now? Guinet is not the issue here. You are. We have an agreement with you would stop meddling with us. And so I have. What do you want, Q? You state your business. Get on with it. I agree, Captain. Enough about this creature. She's diverting us from the purpose of my being. Which is
Uh-huh.
our adoptable Commander Riker and Micro Brain. Growl for me. Let me
Oh, I love that.
My purpose is to join us as one, as a member of the crew, willing and able, ready to serve. This ship is already home for the indigent, the unwanted, the unworthy. Why not for a homeless entity? Homeless? Yes. The other members of the queue continue.
Can you spare 50 pence for the space hostel?
Some are almost respected.
Spare change. Spare change.
For a change? I mean, I did appear naked last time. I mean, what more do you want from me?
Will you start as an ordinary crewman? What task is too menial for an entity? Sir, do you know? Not at all. That's the last thing.
See, one thing I do have a gripe with this episode is that Picard starts off smugly right from the start. Like, I know it's an end to a means for the episode, but it doesn't suit him to be so smug in front of Q.
Yeah.
He's here to destroy chaos. Wolf, pint.
After our last encounter, since then I've been wondering vaguely, bored really, my existence not first. Then I remembered all the good times I had with you. The good times, the first time I met you was on trial for the crimes of humanity.
Oh, you still are.
Next time we saw you, you asked me to join the Q contingent. A big mistake that you didn't accept my offer. More and more I realized that here is where I want to be. Now, I neither expect nor require any special treatment. And if
I just want 2, maybe 3 human sacrifices a
I
day.
will renounce my powers.
And all the virgins on the ship. Fool on him. There's none of them. Ha ha.
Yeah, Riker got to them all first.
Yeah.
Q, is this going to take long? I've got like an appointment at 5:30.
Have a haircut.
Like, honestly, for really, I'm an intimate being and you have a widow's peak.
Simply speaking, we don't trust you.
Oh.
Well, you may not trust me, but you do. You're not prepared for what awaits. But I do know you're making
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. That's why we're out.
I agree with Q here.
What's out here? That is their greatest advantage. They're moving faster than expected, further than they should. By whose calculations? You judge yourselves against the pitiful adversaries in the council. The Romulans, the Klingons. They're nothing compared to what's waiting.
It's also very true.
He's not lying. He's genuinely
No.
trying to warn him.
Yes.
One is more incredible than you can possibly imagine. And terrors to freeze your soul.
Mm-hmm.
I offer myself as a plan, only to be rejected out of the head. We'll do the best we can without you. What justifies that smugness? Not smugness, not arrogance. That's a little bit determined.
That's smoke, lads.
We'll just have to see how ready you are.
Boom. Wes going like, shit, press the wrong button, fuck.
What the fuck did I do? Oh, I'm so not getting into the academy now.
Oh, jeez.
Bridge, this is the captain. All stop. Answering all stop, sir. Status. According to these coordinates, we have traveled 7,000 light years and are located near the system. Travel time to the nearest starbase.
Which, in fairness, it's not.
Too far away.
It's not. It's not that far away. Like,
It isn't. But that's I suppose that's the point. And then come those 2 years, it is actually appropriate.
yeah.
Don't let me so happy down. The home is ready. orchestra game. It's now time to see if you dance.
Hmm.
This part of the galaxy.
Only that if I were you, I'd start back now.
Stardate 42761.9. Despite Guinan's warning, I feel investigate this.
Again, I'm not sure about this part of Picard's character here, because like they've established that like they do have a bit of a rapport, and Picard tends to go what Guinan's good instinct is. Now, granted, that could be why he now objectively believes what Guinan says now.
Yeah.
Because of shit like this.
I'm thinking that's what it is, because if he'd have listened to her, they may. But the thing is, if he'd have listened to her, they may not have encountered the Borg at all.
Very true. Very true. It is kind of like one of those kind of fates compels these type of things.
Yeah.
It is on an intercept course. On screen.
I remember watching this for the first time going, what the fuck is that?
Yeah. Just like fucking a straight cube of shrapnel.
Keep the shield down. We don't let those be provocative.
But the fact that it looks so, like, again, kind of the alienness of it. The fact that you're seeing, like,
I found it very Star Warsy kind of Empire-ish.
Empire-ish,
when I first seen it, yeah.
Or even something like some of the other kind of weird sci-fis you get where everything's kind of like in pyramid, triangular shapes or pyramidal shapes. Like, actually see a basic shape as a ship is weird.
No shields. The weapons of any known design. Alien frequencies. Open. This is Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the USS Enterprise. No response. This is Captain Picard representing the United Federation of Planets. Activate your screen.
I mean, you do have like a perfect view of it there. Just saying.
Yeah. I think it was more so to observe the bridge than
dialogue,
just
yeah.
You're familiar with this life form?
Yes. My people encountered them a century ago. They destroyed our cities. Scattered my people throughout the galaxy. They're called the Borg. Protect yourself, Captain, or they'll destroy you.
Shields up. Aye, sir.
Well, what I love about that little bit there was the kind of finality that like kind of spoke with. In a sense, was like, have you encountered them before? Yep. It's the reason why I'm on this ship.
Very first time we see one.
Yeah.
It's ever since this episode, and especially Best of Both Worlds, that I've always wanted to make a Borg costume.
Mm.
But the intricacy and the moving parts, I wouldn't be very good with electronics.
No.
But I've always wanted, at the very least, to have a Borg arm.
But yeah, it's the kind of, as I said, it's all the kind of moving parts of it, but it's certainly the case of like how intricate and delicate do you want it to be? You know, kind of way, or do you want to?
I wanted it to be as screen accurate as possible.
Yeah, that's it. Or something like how like Quintessential worked, which is kind of just the the turtleneck and then other machinery.
Now, this may be something, or it may be nothing, but I always felt like this was actually Data. This particular Borg,
because of the pale skin.
Yeah, but I actually thought it was the actor.
I can see that. I can see Brent Spiner in him.
Yeah,
I see what you mean now.
We mean you no harm. You understand me? Understand you. You're nothing to him. He's not interested in your life form. He's just a scout, the first of many. He's evangelized you with technology. You need him to gain control of the ship. But with let him.
Right on cue.
Stop it. I cannot allow you to interfere with the operation of this ship.
I think he's like literally just downloading the ship schematic. Like it's so even the effect is so like singular.
Good luck.
That's a bump.
Now, I have an issue with that
Yes. Yeah, I'm saying.
because they had never been shot by one of them before, so it should have worked the first time.
But it was on stun, I think, was the problem.
Whatever means to neutralize the invader.
That's more like it.
Mm-hmm.
But that was set to kill, so
See the movement in the arm there. Like, I'm like, how the fuck do you do that? I'm
that's
not
a
good
board
with electronics. Oh,
Yeah.
there's another lad.
Yeah. There's the effect. Oh, so even the stare. So how many times do you think Gene Roddenberry watched RoboCop before doing this episode? He leaves a scorch mark on the back.
Yeah.
Look at the size of it, though, comparatively. I know they do kind of clean up the look of the Borg after the cube after a while.
Yeah.
It looks very kind of like gunmetal grey there. We actually know where she was, in fairness, thanks to the movie.
Mhm.
Why did the board attack? What they did? Then the initial encounter was solely for the purpose of gathering information. How do we reason with them better? Captain, we are being hailed. On screen.
There we are. This I love.
This is Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the U.S.
Did you tighten up that Borg voice after a while? Because as far as I know, I think it's just the director and the producer doing those voices, just melded together.
When we see them again in Best of Both Worlds, it's definitely better. But eventually when we get to First Contact and then Voyager, it's much better. Much better.
Yes, much better, yeah.
Yes, a single leader can make mistakes, which is far less likely in the combined whole.
Picard, are you sure you don't want me as a member of your group?
Get him up. Get him out of the view screen. Would have been nice to hear a rock or anything like that. Oh, I like that bit of
Look at it, that music. Oh yeah.
the music, but it was that little thing from Guinan where like she's just sitting there knowing what's coming next.
Yeah.
Captain, the beam is holding us here.
Increase the power. Shields weakening. Shields will be down in 18 seconds. Okay, the exact source of that tractor beam. Lock on patience. Visual lock on target. Fire.
Boom.
They still have us. Shields are down, sir.
Oh. And this is the fucked up part. Right?
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I thought I saw people moving in that column. I love that effect.
Slicing into the saucer section. You're carving us up like a roast.
And it just takes a little sub-second, but it does a biopsy on the Enterprise.
Yeah.
Fucked up.
Terminate that beam. Fire when ready.
Nice.
Again, Mr. Walker.
Like when you look at the damage there, you're like, Jesus Christ, blowing chunks out of the Borg ship.
Yeah.
Just the
Exactly.
phasers. Imagine what the torpedoes probably destroyed the ship.
That's the same. They should have used the torpedoes to begin with.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just goes to show you that like being cagey actually kind of punished them in a sense.
Mhm.
Where that search that are missing.
Mhm.
What is the condition of the alien ship?
You know for a fact that he's blaming Q for all of this.
Yeah.
Flight supports now.
I'd be fucking legging it, lads. Just saying.
I'd be out there
Yeah.
before they got a chance.
Never found them anywhere you need it, anywhere except for life support.
No, it wouldn't help. The circuits that control the shields, they've been fused.
If you can't reprogram, then reroute.
They're just like that.
I know.
No, I can't.
Sonya, stop it. We'll have time to brief later. Now, right now, let's just get these shields on.
I do like this little scene here because it is just a difference of like Geordie, who's been there for years, and then someone who's wet behind the ears academy. So like, oh, I am not ready for this shit.
But it also shows that they're collectively not ready.
Not ready for it. Exactly.
They're actually proven Q.
Humanity
right.
isn't ready.
They're not ready.
Yeah, exactly.
Thousands of centuries.
The Borg is the ultimate use. They're unlike any threat or federation.
I love the way he's cast here, like in the shadow.
Well, or power as you know it. They're simply interested in your ship, its technology. They've identified it as something they can consume.
Consume and absorb is what I would say.
Exposed us to it, cost us the lives of our shipmates.
Darling, please, let me talk.
This is as real as your so-called life. Very good. Captain, I have the casualty list on the full screen. Cancel. Sir, if we're going to have any further dealings with the board now or in the future, why not hold in Canada? Visit the ship.
I think the Rikers immediately knife in teeth. Let's kill these son of bitches. You can see why he was given the Titan.
Transporter room 3. Data.
I wouldn't go
Yeah, after about 20 years.
Yeah, took him long enough. He had to temper the aggression a little bit. Like seriously, if he's at Wolf 359, he would have just went he would have done a suicide run on the cube.
Well, he nearly had the Melbourne, and the Melbourne, of course, was destroyed at Wolf 359. So
It was, yeah. He quite literally dodged a big ass bullet there.
mhm.
In an attempt to learn more about
Hey, there's the original.
Hey, the most
Ah,
important man in
Jesus.
Starfleet.
Come fucking me.
The most important man in Starfleet.
Yeah, a lot of commitments.
Haha, I see what you did there.
Only Irish people get that joke. Oh, now this. How's this for like the most like offsetting like vibe for a ship? Again, all very tightened up after a while, but still.
Yeah.
Initially, hot start.
Perhaps because this ship was being
There's about 10,000 of them, Riker, so relax.
Yeah, exactly.
these slots that become a part of the whole. No longer read as separate life forms.
The fact that he look like, you know, like figurines. That's what I find the best part of this. Because how upsetting is this? The fact that like those three lads went on board hoping there's going to be a gunfight and rescue the 18 people, and they're not even being looked at. How much of a big balls move is that?
Captain, go ahead, number 1. slots along the wall, kind of like compartments. There are 2 Borg in each one. Captain, I would theorize that the Borg are somehow interconnected with these slots. They're working collectively.
As an android, do you think Data would like be kind of going like, humble brag? I'm not gonna lie, the HD update really does kind of take the veneer off the effects. You can see what's very clearly like spray painted plastic.
Yeah.
A very season 2 issue, in fairness. Early season 2.
Technology required to achieve this biological and artificial interface is far beyond our capabilities.
Wait,
But it's a very
Data isn't that short, is he?
I don't think so. I think, no, to be fair, Dorn and Freight are 6'3".
No, he has stepped down. No, he has stepped down, yeah.
But Dorn and like the 2 of those lads are pretty tall as well, so
yeah.
Fascinating. They either don't see us or don't see us as a threat.
I'd say don't see you as a threat. I let him Worf in this going like, dude, what the fuck? Hit me!
I want to shoot something. Come on, you
Hit
bastard.
me!
This I have to say is cool.
This
When
is
you look
great.
out and you go, oh shit, there's thousands of them.
Yeah. This is a very H.R. Geiger view, isn't it? Like, this is something that he'd be into. And the fact that you can see Borg moving around and like doing different tasks is great.
Yeah. I love
all of that is
background.
very
See the background sound.
Yes.
They used that for the exterior of the ship as well during Best of Both Worlds, and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a very ominous sound.
But it's ambience that's just for that ship. You don't hear anywhere else.
No, nothing else.
No.
We better put appear to be the Borg nurse.
Well, there's babies in boxes. That's about it. Tori's going, yeah.
Look that the Borg are born as a biological life. Seems that almost immediately after birth, they begin artificial implants. Apparently, the Borg have developed the technology to link artificial intelligence directly.
You know, Musk going, yeah, give me 5 minutes, 5 years, lads, yeah.
So,
That's why he must be stopped, because he is going to create the Borg.
what is it? The ship appears to be regenerating.
I can tell from this completely static picture.
Their collective effort is being directed into repairing this vessel. Captain, the Borg seem to be using their combined power to repair the ship. Unfortunately, leave the away team directed to the bridge.
Again, no problems there, just the ground.
Now, Mr. Crusher, engage.
Here we go.
Yeah, chase is on, lads.
Pursuit. On screen. Magnify. Increase the third power.
Love that.
It's continuing to regenerate. Let's see if we can have a There's a horse. I want maximum wall for as long as we can hold it. Yes, sir. We are now passing warp 8.5. 8.8. Warp 9. On the photon torpedoes. See if we can slow them down. Torpedoes armed.
Thank fuck. Nothing.
That's just it. They should have made a difference because they'd never
Yeah.
encountered torpedoes before.
Exactly.
It's fine. The Borg are still gaining.
Oh, I love that.
The ship, until you exhaust your fuel, they will wear down your defenses. Then you will be there. Admit it, Picard. You're out of your league. You should have stayed where you belong.
All he wants is
Should
for
have.
Picard to be wrong. That's all he wants.
Picard is wrong.
He is wrong. Completely wrong.
Right. Bullshit.
I was like, ladies. He's just going, I wonder how many people will die until I get to have my point.
What's of any damage to the Enterprise? Captain, target was not the ship. The weapon was designed to drain the shield.
Considering this is a surprise.
12%. Captain, the Borg ship is closing. They're firing again. Shields have been reduced 41%. Another hit and we will be defenseless. On the photon torpedoes.
Because that worked the first time.
Alarm. On photons.
Nothing.
The Borg ship was not damaged. You cannot run them. You can't destroy them. If you damage them, the essence of what they are remains. They regenerate and keep coming. Eventually, you will weaken. Your reserves will be gone. They are relentless. The Borg ship is firing.
There's your shields gone, lads.
We have lost shields again.
Oh, out of warp.
Captain, we've just lost the warp engines.
Where's your stubbornness now, Picard? Your arrogance? Do you still profess to be prepared for what awaits you? The Borg ship is reestablishing its tractor beam.
And this is someone who's just loving this.
Yes, sir.
Without our shields, at this range, there is a high degree of probability that a photon detonation could destroy the Enterprise.
Blast back in space. Pah.
I'll be leaving now.
Ah,
You thought you could handle it.
you see, I like this part. He stopped them from firing the photons.
What makes you think I'm either inclined or capable to terminate this encounter? We all die here. Now. You will not be able to gloat. You wanted to fight this.
Again, kind of, Picard, you're missing the point here.
You wanted to show us that we were inadequate for the moment. I know that. You wanted me to say I need you.
Swallow your pride, mate.
I need you.
Boom. Away we go.
Position.
070, Mark 63, sir. How can we start?
All of the music's kicking and going, everything is fine now.
Another man would have been humiliated to say those words.
He was.
Another man would have rather died than ask for help. I understand what you know.
Oh,
If you can't take a little bloody nose, maybe you ought to go back home and crawl under your bed.
that's a lie.
It's not safe out here. It's wondrous. With treasures to satiate desires both subtle and close. But it's not good. Of course, Starbase.
Course laid in for Starbase 83, sir.
Kind of wrong music for this whole thing, you know?
Set a series of events into motion.
There we go.
Bringing your contact with the Borg much sooner than it should have come. actually ready and possible to establish a relationship with them. Right now, we're just raw material to them. Since they're aware of existence. They will become.
Yeah, there we go.
You did the right thing for the wrong reason. Now, perhaps it was a kick in our conscience. That's what lies ahead.
And right. All the same, they are taking the deaths of 18 crewmen very, very well. You have to say that, like, really, just taking in the stride there with that happy sitcom ending. To be fair, that is kind of like Gene Roddenberry all over. It's just like, no matter what happens, it's a happy ending.
Yes, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things to take from that is when they first get to the system J25, which of course is in the Gamma Quadrant.
Yes.
There's almost a throwaway line. I know if you're not kind of paying attention, you kind of lose it. Is that they're scanning the areas and they were like, well, there's a couple of planets, but they match what happened to a couple of planets along the neutral zone.
Yes.
And it's in the episode called The Neutral Zones when we first see the Romulans in Next Generation, and their colonies have been destroyed as well by the same thing. And now we learn that it's actually the Borg. But this is the thing about it. It's there. Q says, you have no idea what awaits you out there, whereas they've already kind of encountered them. The Borg have already been there.
Yes. There is one cube floating around, and they just haven't seen it yet. It is there. They just haven't seen to find it yet. Yeah. And I'm glad in the sense because we mentioned about conspiracy, how that alien creature was kind of not necessarily the template, but it was the prototype for the Borg, or at least the kind of type of enemy they wanted to reintroduce into the Next Generation, because they didn't really have anything like that in the original series. And bear in mind, like, this is still them trying to kind of run through the motions of the original series. Like, they're doing a lot of similar episodes, and they're all pretty shit. And this is them towards the end of the season doing something to just go, fuck it, let's just make the show good. Let's just make the show interesting. And that was it. It was actually kind of a final like dice throw to like say to people, no, this show was really good. And then it was only until perhaps this season and then the next seasons after this where you're going, oh yeah, this is where they start like showing you what type of enemy to expect in the show in advance. So then when you are tuning in every week, you're thinking, are the Borg going to appear in this episode? No. Until the end of season 3, which will
end of season 3, which was the very last episode, and what a cliffhanger it leaves you on as well. To get to that episode is exciting because it'll be the first double header, the first big episode that we will have covered.
Some may say a quintessential two-parter as well, because
absolutely. When you look at two-parters, it's the first real proper two-parter within Star Trek, and it leads like such a good episode as well, such a good double episode, I should say. And what I think as well is the episode after it as well is equally as important.
Yes,
especially for Picard's development. But listen, we'll get to that another time.
We'll get to that. Yes.
This is very much a starter, but it is leading you down into, we know of the Romulans, we know of the Klingons, and then the various of the races, Tholians, Cardassians, the Dominion, the Zenketi, races that have all fought the Federation in the past, but something that they could very much fight back. There may have been some technical. Exactly, there may have been some technological difficulties in at times, but they were always able to fight back. But they able to negotiate and actually talk with them. The Borg are something very different. Now, of course, in that episode, we didn't find out that they wanted their technology, certainly, but we didn't know that they wanted their people as well. And you don't really find that out until Picard is actually one of them in the Best of Both Worlds. But even then, they only wanted one. They didn't even try and get the whole crew. So it's not until later on, and in future episodes, you actually find out that they assimilate whole cultures, whole races. And then you really, really see that come to light in Voyager. And it's in Voyager that you really see it properly then. But in this one, you find out that obviously the Borg are after their technology. They've sent drones onto the ship to find out, to download the data. And then they took a piece of the hull where 80 people were killed. It's definitely a great starter for will eventually turn into the Borg Collective. I thought it was a good episode.
It was a good episode. Like I said, it's a very important episode in that sense because, like I said, the biggest issue that the Next Generation had, especially in the early days, was that there wasn't any really good villains to sit your hat on. In a sense where, like in the original series, you had kind of like an Alien of the Day premise, but the reoccurring alien races were Andorians, Tellarites, but mostly the Klingons. Klingons were your go-to for your villains of the day, and the Romulans kind of popped in as a more nuanced, like kind of more sneaky, political, subtle villain, if you will. Like Klingons were like playing the fucking Rosie half the time, chewing the scenery, whereas in season 1 they had this kind of same problem, but you had a Klingon on the bridge, so clearly you can't go there. You do have the Romulans in play from the end of season 1, so you're thinking like. I think it's meant to be a bigger twist on paper than it is actually in the show. It didn't really have the same. It didn't land as much as they thought they would. And like I said, they introduced the Ferengi with the express purpose of them being the new kind of Klingons, if you like, and that fell on its arse completely. But at the same time, though, you had different other ideas for enemies and threats out there. Like I said, we mentioned about the conspiracy aliens that didn't go anywhere. We now have the Borg. Before then, the crystalline entity was one as well. And that was something like, even remember when I was watching that as a kid and the Neutral Zone episode popped up, I didn't even make the connection about the Borg. I was actually thinking, oh, that's what the crystalline entity did to Data's planet. So surely it's the same thing. This is a bigger, as it were, a mother crystalline entity that's out there. But again, these are all like kind of like throwing shit out of the wall and seeing what's stuck type of premise. And the Borg is what kind of like combined from all of that, from the crystalline entity, from the conspiracy aliens to this. And in a way, seeing that it's like an incorporation of like organic and like artificial life, that's very, very appropriate. That was the kind of end product. But like I said, the whole kind of like, they definitely didn't refine what the actual race was until perhaps, I think, like, right, character Bible wise, I think they knew by Best of Both Worlds what type of alien these guys were. Whereas this one was more of a case of, oh, we found H.R. Geiger's fucking sketchbook, let's make some sets type of deal. But that's a good start. It's a good start, and then we can build on that then for the next time. So, pretty much. Jerry, there's only one name I can give you for Guest Among the Stars, and unfortunately, she is a one and done. That would be Licia Naff, who plays Sonia Gomez. So, she does appear a good few times in season 2, and only season 2, unfortunately. I think that's called Pulaski syndrome, I think. And namely, she's in Q-Who and Samaritan Snare, but Samaritan Snare is literally just like, Ensign Gomez, hi! It's like, yeah, she's in the scene, basically. She was intended to be a reoccurring character in the same way that O'Brien was, and like Argyle from season 1. Very much was kind of like yellow shirt of the day type of deal. And yeah, it just never really happened for her in a sense. Which again is a pity, because I think she's actually quite a good character for what she was, especially in this episode.
Definitely likable. She was a likable character. Yeah,
definitely. And as you mentioned, she did. Sonia Gomez reappeared in Lower Decks in the season finale of season 2, First Contact. and Alicia Naff was playing her. Was the voice actor for that?
Oh, I didn't know that. That's
Yeah.
you see. This is the thing about I have to say about Lower Decks is that they do that.
It's
They
a
got a
series
lot
full
of
Star Trek.
they
It really is.
the makers of Lower Decks, they're proper Trek fans. You know,
Yes.
I look at the likes of who's the showrunner now for Discovery? What's his name?
Shit, I can't remember.
Whatever his name is. Clearly he may be a fan, but he wouldn't be a super fan. Or maybe he's just somebody who casually had watched Star Trek and thought I'll be able to do this. You know, I don't think Discovery is bad. I don't think Picard was bad, but they're definitely being made by
take
people
on
who
Star Trek, which is what you want. Well,
exactly.
You know, in the same way, like Deep Space Nine wouldn't have been the same without R. Stephen Bear putting his spin on what he wanted Star Trek to be.
Okay, I'll agree with you there, but it was still Star Trek.
Yes, it's still in the realm.
Whereas Discovery for me, it's like it's Star Trek, but it doesn't seem like Star Trek. It doesn't feel like
it's like Star Trek by way of J.J. Abrams Star Trek is what I would say.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So when you look at Lower Decks, it's very much being made by super fans. It's by fans for fans, that type of thing.
Exactly, yeah.
And it just, to me, it just checks every single box. I don't think there's a bad Lower Decks episode. I'll actually go as far as to say there's not a bad Lower Decks episode.
No, that's fair enough.
The fact that it's a cartoon, you're like, fucking cartoon? What? No, there's not a bad one.
And instead, it's a case of like, because they're all short seasons now, the quality is usually quite high. Like you could say that about the kind of new treks generally, the production is always quite high. It's just down to the quality of the scripts and the like premises and stories and so forth. Like Discovery and Picard have kind of pigeonholed themselves where like they're working on a main arc and they have to follow that through. Whereas something like Lower Decks and now Strange New Worlds is episodic, so it can do something like the traditional treks have done.
I much prefer the episodic.
100% yes. Unless the arc is very, very good. That's all I'd say. But
but two or three episodes and done and move on.
Exactly. Yeah. Shorter arcs, precisely. But yes, in terms of the actress herself, Alicia Naff, if she's 59, still going. You have seen her before, though, Jerry. If you have watched Total Recall, because
I would have watched Total Recall. Yes.
She is on Mars. She is the three-breasted mutant.
No.
Yes, she is.
Yes, see, I'm gonna have to Google that now.
She's also she was also in the original Lethal Weapon movie. She was the prostitute in that movie.
I'm gonna have to Google that as well. Okay.
There you go.
No, I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah. And she actually started on Fame, the TV show Fame as a dancer, would you believe?
Fame, fucking hell.
Yeah, and she was also on The Flash. She's actually recently, would you believe, she is now a journalist. She writes for the Miami Herald and she writes columns for The Dish and The Globe. So,
wow,
yeah,
okay.
There you go. Alicia Naff does have quite a career to her name, and it all, well, I wouldn't say it started as that, but certainly she has various different titles to her name. She actually would have been in The Equalizer as well for that TV show too. So she's been around. She's been on quite a lot, to be fair. And like I said, this kind of the top three would have been Gomez, Total Recall, and Lethal Weapon. So there you go. So yeah, only that one entry in terms of guest stars. We're not including some of the like extras they use for the Borg the Borg drones and so forth, because that would have been too much of a stretch anyway. But one entry into the shipyards, Jerry, can only be the Borg cube. So I'll just kind of spit out some names here. It is a 3,037 meters long, height and width. It is a perfectly symmetrical 3-meter cube. And how many do you fit?
How many? Sorry?
How many Borg do you think it fits?
Well, as far as I'm aware, it has a crew of 10,000. But I'd say it probably fits more than about 50,000.
130,000.
Jesus, okay.
That's the capacity of a Borg cube, of at least the one we see on Star Trek, at least. I know there's like some of them are like, some few later ones are like, because I think the cube that was like in Best of All Worlds is the same cube. I think that was supposed to be established. But other like Borg ships we see later on in like First Contact and especially in Voyager, there's smaller and bigger cubes, if you know what I mean. They're all different shapes, or sizes rather. But like, it's not much to say about it really. It's just a big fucking cube, and it's a big ass cube as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very much a case. The literal first contact was this episode in System J25. However, 12 years earlier, the Borg cube was attracted by the USS Raven, which was the parent of 7 of 9, as we know. So Starfleet was aware of the Borg beforehand, curiously enough, but I don't think they'd never classified them as the Borg. They just saw it as a cube floating through space.
You see, this is the thing. The stuff with the Raven, for me,
Yeah,
it really bothers me because I'm like, 12 years beforehand, they knew who the Borg were, but yet they didn't know who the Borg were. And I'm like, that doesn't sit well with me. And I'm like,
no.
To me, I'm kind of like, maybe should they not have said no? They went now.
Yeah.
Now
I
is
say
when they went.
it was a case of where like the USS Raven, again, because they were researchers, they weren't Starfleet as such. You could have reasoned that like all their data and research was lost with the Raven, and therefore Starfleet and the Federation never actually got it. You could make that argument. I can't remember the episode. I don't think that's the case. I don't know if that's the case or not. But definitely the fact that it's such a 12-year gap, you'd think like, okay, maybe someone should take a look at that and see where the Raven has gone. And they just never got around to it. So yeah, I do think it's a bit of an outlier, right? And kind of like Voyager not paying attention to the canon, which they don't do quite a bit when it comes to the Borg. And yes, of course, we mentioned about the Battle of Wolf 359, which we'll see in Best of Both Worlds very, very soon. That was kind of very much the first instance of where like, oh shit, this Borg cube is for real. And we see more in First Contact, of course, and very much in other kind of instances of confrontations in Voyager and stuff like that. Yeah, in fact, also in the in Lower Decks, it also makes an appearance too, because we have like in the opening cutscene, in the opening credits of Lower Decks, we see the Cerritos encountering like a Borg fight with Romulans, and going, nope,
turn around, get the hell out of there. Yeah,
just great. So yes, and if you wanted to know, the cube is made of titanium, and we learned that from Voyager. So that's also kind of a fun fact in that sense. And like I said, it's all kind of like made up of drones, all assimilated, all this sort of stuff. And we very much get knowledge of like how the cube actually moves in like Voyager or more. So it really fleshes out the hows of the Borg in that show, because Lord knows they needed fucking something for some of those later seasons. And of course we then see some in Picard then as well as the artifact that the Romulans are mining and so forth. So yeah, I've had your thoughts on the cube. Obviously it's like designed to be jarring. It's designed to kind of get you off kilter, and it looks so fucking different to everything else. Fair to say. But so what's your thoughts on the cube as a ship? Would you take command of a cube if you had it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
30,000 people.
Oh yeah. Easy. I just got plug it in, grand.
Oh.
Yeah, when you first see it, it did kind of give me the kind of shades of Empire and Imperial ships. Obviously, with the Death Star with the Empire and Star Destroyers and stuff like that. So that's the things that kind of made me think of. That's what Borg cube made me think of. I'm like, okay, it's big. It's not quite Death Star big, but it's big. Obviously, the regeneration. The graphics weren't great, but you look at that and go, oh shit, oh we're screwed now. Screwed now. I do like the fact that since then we've gotten upgraded cubes, and they didn't, right now in this episode and then in Best About Worlds, anything actually to do with next gen, they don't have that green glow. No. Whereas you from First Contact and especially in Voyager, you get that lovely green glow. So you always associate the Borg with a green.
Yes.
Certain races. You look at the Romulans, that would be green. Klingons would be red. Cardassians yellow. Dominion purpley pink.
I always had Jem'Hadar as kind of that kind of purplish kind of color. Yeah.
the Klingons are kind of originally kind of a reddish color, and then of course Federation blue. You would
Blue, yeah.
associate blue with the Federation. So to associate, you definitely associate the Borg with the green, especially on their newer ships or the newer episodes and newer movies. I do like the cube, and especially when it gets updated.
Yes.
For those,
The
it
movie, it
visually
definitely
looks
looks more
fantastic.
fresh, yeah.
Especially in the movie when the kind of the cube, not the cube, the
There.
sphere comes out of it, and you're like, oh, that's
Yeah.
new, that's different. I like that. It's almost their equivalent of a what you call it, escape pod.
Yeah.
You know, it's their equivalent of escape
Which
pod.
they would have
So-
learned from humans. Like they would have learned
Yes.
from ship design. So yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Learning from humans, ironically.
So I do like the ship, absolutely. Now where are we going to rank it though? That's the thing.
That's the question, because the premise is like the design and our capability of our willingness to have one. So it's a tricky one. Like it's hard. Like you can't really like critique it on its design because it is just a big fuck off cube made of like scrap metal. And even behind the scenes, it's literally just like the actual like the pieces of like a ship that you can assemble. So it's all like the wire kind of like parts of it, you know. So like, is that lazy design or is it smart design? Is it economic? I mean, I call it economic myself.
I
Is
would
it a
go
problem?
economic. Yeah, I don't think it was lazy. I think that's exactly what they wanted. It was like, oh, let's just throw something together. No, I think that's what they wanted. They wanted to have a little bit of rough and tumble, a little bit kind of thrown together. But I
Yes.
think that's exactly what they were going for.
Definitely,
And it works because you do get a very airy sense of it. You're looking to go, what the fuck is this? You don't say to yourself, what is this pile of garbage doing? You don't think that. You think, whoa, what?
Yeah.
What's this? And it is absolutely made to make you feel that way, and you do feel that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, ranking it is going to be pretty tough. Like, I would say like Lieutenant would be a reasonable one, considering like again, it's not like because there's not really kind of critique design wise. It's just the kind of the vibe you get off it. I think is more the case. You could kind of bump it higher than that. I think Lieutenant, I think, is a fair shout because it is just a big cube, but it's what it represents more so than anything else. It is just that's a Borg ship. You cannot say fairer than that, like, you know. But I mean, we can reason it to be higher, I suppose. But I'd like to hear your thoughts. Where would you have put it?
I'll go with Lieutenant as well. I wouldn't rank it lowest. I wouldn't go Ensign. So certainly I will go with Lieutenant on that one. It's, you know, it's not the greatest of designs, but yeah, exactly. Yeah. And especially when you get to those later ones, they certainly gave it a serious upgrade in Voyager, and I just think in Voyager they look fantastic, especially when you get to see the tactical cube and be like, oh,
yes,
this is a cube. This is a cube that has armor. So as bad as they are now, what's it going to be like going up against a cube that has armor? You're like, oh shit.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, really, really good.
Yeah, indeed. So then I always get to the fun part, the scoring. So like I said, we have a pretty tough episode to follow up on in terms of the last one we did. It was in the Pale Moonlight. So we'll see if Q can top to it. But like I said, this is a prelude to a bigger episode. So let's dive into it then. Starting off with the plot. Strong plot for season 2.
Yes,
very
strong.
Very strong, especially considering this is now we are introducing an enemy plot, which they've done several times before in season 1, and each one more or less failed. Like Frankie failed, Crystalline Entity, like they didn't do enough with it in the end. It was just like it wasn't reoccurring enough. It was a one-off. So and I suppose you could argue Conspiracy didn't really do enough to introduce the creatures either. So this one I think hit all the points. I would say perhaps the fact that you actually did sustain losses helps a good bit as well, because you're thinking like, oh fuck, they didn't get away unscathed. This isn't a happy ending.
No.
So that's a point in its favor too. I'm thinking the upper end, but I'm kind of wavering between 8 or 9 myself.
You see, it's a very important episode.
Yeah,
it is an extremely important episode because you are introducing your big bad. This is you know, the big bad are not the Klingons, the Cardassians, the Romulans, even the Dominion. You know, the Dominion became a big bad, but it was a more gradual thing, whereas As soon as you're introduced to the Borg, you're like, oh, this is it. These are the
It's different,
ones.
crazy. Yeah.
These are the ones. We've tried a few out, didn't really stick. We're gonna try the
This
yeah,
works.
no, these are the ones. These are the big bad of, I think, all of Star Trek. I think all of Star Trek, they're the big bad. So between 8 and 9, you said, was it?
Yeah, because my reasoning is that like because this was just a first encounter, it wasn't an actual like full blown conflict. It wasn't like it literally didn't go like 0 to 60. This is a case of like you got away with this. This is your warning. Get ready. So it's a case of like this is an important plot, but the plot for the next Borg episode is going to be even bigger. So that's the way I kind of look at it. It is a case of your first encounter, first contact, not necessarily a full blown conflict. If that makes sense. This is just like you got away with one. So I felt the kind of plot kind of like established that it was just like a close encounter, if that makes sense.
I think I'm going to go an 8.
Grant, I'll meet you with 8 then. We'll go with 8. So we'll start off then with setting. So I've given a lot of strong points to setting here. For 110 forward, I think is a great set overall.
Fantastic set, yeah.
But a lot of it's about the Borg cube. Now I have taken a point off it because it looks quite like naff now with the HD collection. That's just down to the tech at the time and the way the very slapdash sets and so forth. So I'm not going to worry about it in that sense. But overall, very, very different to what you would have seen from different sets and ships back then. Because if I'm not mistaken, they didn't really show you anything. You would have seen Klingon sets from like the movies, so you know what that looks like, and that's a very vibe. I don't recall seeing a Romulan ship up until this point. I could be wrong. You might have seen a bridge. That's about it.
We saw a bridge.
Yes.
You saw the bridge in. Oh God! You saw the bridge in a neutral zone when we talked to Gul Dukat Romulan.
Yes.
That's when we first introduced to Mark Alamo, isn't it?
Mark Alamo, yeah.
Mark Alamo as a Romulan. But you saw the Romulans in their new uniforms and their new haircuts and their kind of ridges that they have. I don't think you see the ships, but I could be wrong there. I'm not too sure. By this time, I don't think we've seen Tomalak.
No,
I don't think so.
There was an episode I can't remember when in season 2 was when Geordi and the other Romulan gets trapped on the planet. I'm fairly sure that was season 2 or 3. I can't recall. Could have been 3 actually. And now that I think of it.
Possibly 3. I don't know about 2 because I don't think it definitely wasn't 2. It wasn't 2 because it was. I remember Beverly Crusher was there and she wasn't in season 2. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay, that dates it then. I remember season 2 being very like with Romulans generally. Which one was the Iconian episode? Was that season 2?
That might have been season 2.
Yeah, because like Picard does warp onto the Romulans bridge, so
yeah.
So anyway, but that's neither here nor there. But anyway, from the point being, from all the bridges and like different alien ships we've seen, this is completely different, and they've done they established it really, really well. How essentially like this is like it's a very different ship and a very different threat. So I want to give it very strong like points in setting just for like the way they made it lay out, the way they made it feel, and much like kind of like what Stephen was kind of saying last time about like the kind of the vibe they got. So I'm giving an extra point to the conference room and how darkly lit it is, because it is exemplifying the mood of the episode where like Q appears and he's half cast in shadow and stuff like that. They don't do it enough in this episode, I think, because they weren't like kind of like aware of the techniques you can do for that sort of thing. Like I said, Star Trek was not quite using the same dramatic effects as you'd see now in DS9. Because if DS9 did something like with the Borg, in a sense it did with the Dominion, they would use all those techniques and those styles. Whereas the Next Generation was kind of like, I don't know what's the word, pigeonholed into doing it that way. So
I agree.
I'm going for the same kind of scoring. I'm going for 8 or 9 on this one.
Yes, I think so. It's a very different look to anything in Star Trek. Generally, when they go to a ship, or you see them on another ship, or you see another ship, you see small corridors. You see, it's obviously going to have its own different flavor, whatever the race is, but it's all going to be fairly the same. Small corridors, a good-sized bridge, good-sized engineering section, blah, 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 blah. This is different. This
No,
is
no,
you're on basically a gangway, and you're going along, and then you turn around and you go, oh, this is really wide and big and open. You've got thousands and thousands of drones. You've got technology you've never seen before. Then we were talking about the sound, that ambient sound in the background of the that type of thing, and how it's unnerving, but it's perfect for the sound of a Borg ship.
Yes.
I thought it was fantastic. You've got the other things as well, where first time we've seen 10 Forward. 10 Forward is one of the best sets on the Enterprise.
Yeah. No.
You know, it's where they socialize, they sit down, they have a drink. You know, it's where Worf helped Keiko give birth.
Yes.
You know, so it's good. It's
Where all the fights happen as well.
Exactly. It's a lot of fights happen there. Yeah, and it's where Picard sang.
It is.
Yeah, well, it wasn't really Picard, but you know.
Cheer up, my lads. Oh, cheer up, my lads.
Exactly. So I'm inclined to go with you. So an 8 to a 9. So where are we going to meet here?
I'm swaying towards more 9 than 8 myself.
Let's go with a 9 then. I'm going to go with a 9 for this because I think it deserves it. Absolutely deserves it.
Yeah, I think so too. So writing is one, and I've given a lot of points to this one. But Jerry, what's your thoughts on the writing of this episode?
My thoughts are they basically the writing is fairly good. You've got you know, stuff with Guinan, you've got stuff with Q, and then stuff with Picard as well. Picard was definitely written slightly differently for this episode. He wasn't as reasoned as he normally is. I think it was more along the lines of he was sick of Q at this stage, and he just wanted them to be fucking gone. And he basically he bears the responsibility then of what happens. It's not Q's fault what happens. It's Picard's fault. If Picard hadn't have been as arrogant as he was to think, you know what, we don't need your fucking help. We're Starfleet. You know, we'll do what we want. And 18 people died.
Exactly.
And you see, the thing is, it's 18 people died, and then several thousand during Wolf 359.
Exactly. Yeah.
And including Jennifer Sisko. You know, so it effectively you could say to yourself, it is Picard's fault.
Yeah, he's the catalyst. His hubris is the catalyst to all this. His little
his sheer fucking hubris.
Maybe that's why you started to hate him now. It's like, we actually roll back the tape and we realize, it's all your fault. You know the same way, like they roll back the tape for Kirk going, you fucking ruined everything with the Klingons. That's what we're giving you, like a fucking tin pot ship you can fly around with your old mates. You're done.
But in terms of the writing for this episode, I thought it was very, very good writing, very well done.
Yes.
I'm gonna go like the last two, and 8 to a 9.
Same here. Like I was going to talk a point with how they presented the Picard character, but I was going to say that
because I think it fits.
I was about to say I'm going to say that more for the character category itself, because it is unlike Picard to do that. They didn't actually express like he was actually fed up with Q. There was not like an actual like expression of it, if you like. It is just like you're assuming that Picard is sick of your shit because as the viewer you're also sick of Q shit type of deal. So yeah, I'm gonna be on the same like kind of wavelength with you. Like I would say more 8 to 9, but that's kind of my feel on myself.
Yeah, let's go with 8. We'll go with 8.
Let's go with 8. Yeah. All right then. And then next is acting. So again, I think I have a couple of strong points, 1 or 2 negatives. But again, Jerry, what was your vibe with the acting on this one?
Strong points have to go to Guinan and Q. Q because he's fucking Q. You know, does no wrong in my eyes. There hasn't been a bad John Delancey performance in all of Star Trek.
I agree
from Deep Space Nine to Voyager to Next Generation. He hasn't had a bad day. No. Not a single one, and he has been fantastic in it. And then you've got Whoopi fucking Goldberg.
Yeah.
What? Like it always puzzles me. It's like, how the hell did they get Whoopi fucking Goldberg for Star Trek?
After she wanted to be on the show.
There you go.
That was it. She was a Trekkie. She wanted to be on it.
And the fact, you know, I loved. I don't know whether you saw it, but she's obviously on what's it in America, The View, isn't it?
The View, yeah.
She's on The View, and then of course Patrick Stewart comes to visit her, but he's actually not there to be on the show. He's like, "Do you want to be on my show?" And it
It's so
effectively,
cute.
no, it effectively is his show because it's Star Trek Picard, so it's all about him. And to know that she's coming back, I will say it again, it's Whoopi fucking Goldberg,
Yeah, exactly.
fantastic actress, um, given us amazing roles over the years, and always played Guinan. Again, no, I don't think we had a bad Guinan episode. The fact that she was in one of the movies as well. Really is a testament to who Whoopi Goldberg is, and not had a bad Whoopi episode. I do particularly like Whoopi Guinan centric episodes, especially when we get the likes of
This is
is it Time's Arrow? Is it?
Arrow's a two-parter, yeah.
Yeah, when they go back in time, they're on Earth. I particularly like that episode.
Yeah,
really, really like that episode because she's in it, and there's also you've got yesterday's Enterprise, one of the better episodes of Next Generation, and she's in that as well. And from the get go, this is going to be very Guinan. Yeah, I like
because
this.
She's the one sensing something's wrong, and she's the kind of the plot of it all. Yeah,
really, really like this. So, in terms of acting performances, yes, absolutely. I think I'm going to give a couple of points as well to Patrick Stewart because he was particularly good in this. He starts off that very arrogant Picard, which we're not used to. We are not used to seeing Picard as arrogant as he was in this episode. But I like that. They may not have alluded to the fact that he was sick of Q, but you can clearly see from the conversation that he's having in 10 Forward that he's sick of Q, and he's just like, he's almost saying to Q, "Do your worst." He didn't say it like that, but he's almost saying it's like, dude, we're ready. We're ready. You do your worst, and you're like, okay, I'm going to give you the biggest bad guys in the entire fucking galaxy. Let's see how you do. And then he realizes, fuck.
Yeah.
Maybe shouldn't have pissed off a god. Because that's effectively what he did. He pissed off a god, and he reaped the benefits.
He got smited.
Unfortunately, not benefits.
That is the question. Was it a benefit in the end? Was it a harsh lesson that had to be learned? That was the kind of premise of the episode in the end, which we'll probably speak about in consequences.
Yes, I think so.
I think I am back on one point, and it's for this. That was naff.
I have always wondered, had they gone at each other, what would she have done?
That's the thing. What power?
Because this is the thing. I think she's more. Yeah, I always looked at Guinan and Elorians, and I said to myself, because they have this history with Q, were they a race that were maybe on a path of evolution that they were to become as powerful as a Q? But they decided, no, we're above, we're kind of above that. We don't want to be as omnipotent. We don't want to turn into the Q, and that's where this kind of little feud between the Q and them happened. Yes. And I've always thought it was like, maybe she does have more power than you believe. If she was to actually show it in that episode, what would have happened? Would she still be a bartender on the Enterprise? Probably not.
Yeah.
I've always thought about that. I've always thought about Elorians, but maybe you look at, say, Stargate, and you've got the ancients and their ascension.
Yes.
And I was like, is that where Elorians were going? And was it the Q that kind of brought the Borg to them? It's lots of things that you could speculate about, but I definitely think that Elorians, and especially Guinan, above all else, because she is a couple of centuries old. She's not just one or two; she's a couple of centuries old, because she was on Earth at the end of the day in the 1800s, and it's now the 2360s when she's so that's 500 years.
500 years, yeah.
And before that, she would have been on her home planet. So that begs the question, what type of technology did they have for her to be able to go from the Gamma Quadrant to Earth and back?
That's the thing. I'm actually just kind of reading about some of the aspects of it there. And again, not a lot is known. I'm going to see what Memory Beta has in store, but I'm sure there's going to be tons on that. But yeah, it's essentially like their very much aspect is like a very long lifetime, because, as I said, Guinan is still like perfectly healthy at what would be 700 years old.
Yeah.
when it comes to the likes of episodes like Times Arrow and as of course Rascals, which is explaining like, this is what like Gunner would look like as a child 700 years ago. So it's kind of like, that's a bit weird. However, but yeah, like they are like, they're humanoid. They're not magical in any sense. Like they still suffer from like, genuine like issue, like sensations. Like they still have like, hunger and thirst and all these kind of things.
Yeah.
But they're very much like empath. They're limited empaths. Like they're actual kind of like listeners, and they have like different skills like advisors and confidants. You remember actually in DS9 there was an Elorian on that ship as well, and he was a con artist. He was a trickster, so he was using like kind of like his own kind of like skill set for other stuff. And of course Dr. Soren in Generations was genocidal, so it was like, it's a kind of thing where like they're a race of listeners. That's always been the premise of the Elorians. I'd say as a comparison from anything in sci-fi, I always see the Asari from Mass Effect as a bit of an Elorian type, because they're a very empathic society as well, and they have a bit of like in that kind of game you have like biotics who have this kind of type of like augmented abilities, but like for some races bioticism is natural, like they just have their exposure to the reasons, the how that happens. But they have a very long lifetime as well. They can live for 1,000 years. So they always kind of find it funny how humans only have like about 100 years in them, when they can last for 1,000. So I think the Asari are very much like a similar type to the Elorians, in a sense where like they're all very like sensible and empaths and baby faces in a sense, until you meet an evil Asari, and like they're using their powers for evil. And ironically, the one I'm thinking of is voiced by Marina Sirtis, so that's why it's fresh in my mind. But is very much a case of like they are that's their kind of like skill and set. Now going by memory beta here, a lot of their kind of like abilities is oriented around time. So they do seem to have like an ability to notice things about time travel and disturbances and so forth like this. Like some people have kind of like rated to being like a Time Lord from Doctor Who, someone who can tell, much like yesterday's Enterprise, something's wrong here. This is not the right timeline. So they definitely do seem to have a case of like they can tell if something's off just from an extrasensory point of view of like, this is the wrong timeline, or this is not how things are meant to be. And that could be down to the fact that they like again, they have such a long life that that is just experience teaching them that, or they can listen, or whatever it is. I don't know. But yeah, like memory beta doesn't really have that much of them. But in terms of actually, there is some comics that have fleshed out a little bit here. In memory beta, Guinan was on board the Enterprise E, and she basically revealed to Picard that Orients were the first species to be assimilated by the Borg, and essentially that was how they kind of like got almost involved, like how they kind of the Borg got a lot of their powers initially, because they got the Elorians first. I don't think that was ever established, to be fair, in main canon. I don't think it will be.
I don't think so. Just for the simple fact is that if you listen to the episode we just watched there, the Borg only assimilated them a century beforehand, but we know the Borg are around a lot longer than that. So it's see, the thing is, it's just when it comes to Star Trek, unfortunately, there's so many different stories out there that a lot of them don't match. You look, there's some great books written to kind of continue the story of Star Trek after Deep Space Nine and Voyager, and some of them are fantastic storylines. But no, because they changed so much that they couldn't include that in canon. But there's some fantastic, you've got the Federation and their alliance with the Klingon Empire, but then you've got the Typhon Pact, which is like the Romulans, the Cardassians, the Tolians, I think might be the Breen as well, and they're trying to create a new federation between themselves against the Federation and the Klingon Empire. And you've got storylines along the lines of Andoria seceding from the Federation, one of the founding members, and you're like, what the fuck is going on here? You've got books that cover a massive Borg invasion. We're not talking about single cubes here. We're talking about dozens, if not hundreds of cubes attacking the entire Alpha Quadrant. We're not talking about just the Federation attacking the Klingons, the Romulans, Cardassians, everyone. So there's so many different stories out there that the characters that you wouldn't think would, not that it wouldn't amount to anything, but you couldn't see them as like captain of their own starship. But you've got Ezri Dax, captain
Yes.
of the first Slipstream starship, and you're like, what the fuck? Get the fuck out!
Never happens.
It's just like John DeFrakes. It never happened.
Never happened. It's a total
Never
fabrication. You ever heard the one about the Elorian who destroyed the planet? It
Never
was a total
happened.
fabrication. It never happened.
It never happened.
Well, like, yeah, so it depends on your thing. Like, I think, like, as I said, this is a race where they just never really got around to fleshing out. And I think, again, it's a great opportunity for Picard to explain why Elorians are like this, but certainly time is one of their, like, extrasensory abilities. So that's something to flesh into.
And the fact that Picard will be very much a time series. So season 2 will be very much a time series. It's obviously going to come out, and that's why I think we're going to be seeing Guinan. Where do we see Guinan in the present, which is the 2390s or 2399, almost into the 25th century, or are we going to see her in the past in 21st century Earth?
Well, I just want to point out, Jerry Soul, that if you're going by generations and how it explains the Nexus is right on cue for another movement. So that might play into things as well. Just saying, because I think the next movement of the Nexus is 2401. So just saying.
Maybe. Well, we'll see. Well, yes, and the fact that Picard is technically an android now as well, so that where does that come into it? You know, it's interesting. But let's move on anyway. So
that's a nice tangent.
I can't even remember what category we were on, Jonathan.
Acting. We were
acting.
So again, I think we will give points for Whoopi Goldberg for essentially acting as a race unto herself.
Absolutely.
So she has her own style, she has her own mannerism, she has her own way of being. So because she is essentially a race of one, do you know what? Very similar to Mark Alamo in a sense where Mark Alamo very much was the archetype for all Cardassians going forwards.
Yes.
In the same way, you might argue Armin Zimmerman became the archetype for all Ferengi going forward. They always seem to latch onto a certain type of actor. Ferengis didn't really, or Klingons didn't really have a strong one in season 1, but definitely in the movies, you've got the likes of Christopher Lloyd coming in and being those tyrannical meatheads type of deal, and that became the archetype for them. So definitely as a race of one, I think Whoopi Goldberg does really well. Again, I'd say 8 again, really for acting.
Yeah, I'm going to go 8 as well, simply because obviously, you know, as I said to you, Picard, he wasn't his usual self, but he was definitely humbled by the end of the episode, and then the revelation that, oh shit, they're coming. So I definitely think, so I think 8 is fair.
I think so too. Next up then is action. So again, a bit of a busy episode in that sense. A few ship battles here and there. Again, it's one of those things where early seasons of Enterprise, they try and keep the action fairly light because there's only so much they can do, and they kind of want to avoid doing big set pieces like that. But they do make a bit of an exception with the Borg here. Again, special effects being a different issue themselves, but we do see a bit of action, we do see a bit of confrontation, and the carving up of the Enterprise is a little bit fucked up. I'm not going to lie, lads.
It is. I think if it would have been more fucked up had you actually seen people.
Yes, because I remembered seeing people but that's like a childlike imagination adding on to that as well. So yeah.
Now I remember there was another. I think it might have been in the Enterprise itself, whereas I think it was. I'd imagine it was along the lines of when they went to the Expanse to try and find the Xindi. Yeah. And the ship was getting blown to pieces, and a massive piece of hull comes off. You do see people flying out of it, and you're like,
they've done that a couple of times.
That's fucked up, lads. Yeah. That's fucked up.
They did that for
those people aren't surviving. They're dead.
They're dead. Yeah. No, they did that one time. They did like a kind of alternate timeline. They did a kind of Yesterday's Enterprise episode one time where Archer and DePaul left the ship because they were both had an illness. And basically Tucker was fight the Xindi war barehanded with the ship. Yeah. So then they were brought back on, and essentially Archer's main thing was to reset the timeline. But he was down in engineering with DePaul and with Phlox, and then the entire bridge gets basically cut to shreds, and you can see everyone's going.
Yeah. And I was like, that's that, lads. Seriously.
Yeah.
It's brilliant, yeah. But fucked up.
Fucked up, yeah.
Brilliant.
Or even
fucked up.
The best one, the one I loved was Nemesis, where the red shirt literally just gets sucked or blown out into space when the view screen is blown. That was great.
You're evil. You're evil.
Okay, it's fine. He's a red shirt. They're currency in Star Trek. But yeah, again, a good episode for action, I think.
Yes, absolutely. Well, you've got two instances where the Borg kind of attacked in person. So you've got the two in engineering, and then it wasn't so much action when they went onto the ship, but you've got the phaser fire that damages the ship. You've got the fact that the Borg started cutting up the Enterprise. You've got the first look of their tractor beams and their weapons, and then the torpedoes firing. I always love, I don't know what it is, but I always love the aft torpedo launcher firing. I think it's just something different. So yeah, I think I wasn't expecting to be scoring this episode as high as I am, but I'm going 8 to a 9 on this as well.
I was going to go 7 to 8, so I think we're meeting at 8 again for this episode.
I think we're going for 8 again.
Yeah, it's a very.
This episode's doing really well.
It is. Thankfully, it won't challenge in the pale moonlight, but it could be a runner for second. We'll see.
I think so. It's going to be close.
Yeah, it is. Effects wise, now this is an interesting one. Very busy category on my score sheet here.
Yes.
A lot of excellent effects in terms of the Borg overall, and with a few little mishaps and little mishits, just from the fact that they hadn't quite refined what they were doing with the Borg. But certain things like the scene transitions were absolutely superb in this episode.
They were fantastic, especially the stuff with Q. Anything to do with Q in this episode, you're like, oh fuck, I didn't see that coming. Like it's like that bit when they're on the bridge and all of a sudden he just turns around. It's oh fuck, it's Q.
Yes.
Just
my favorite one was when like he's on the space, he's on the shuttle, and he knows he's not getting any humor out of Picard. And whichever way they had matched up the background, when they say like this is like that split second where it's changed and your mind is not copped on. And so it's a case of like he's there he's there in the seat and then suddenly he's 10 forward, and it's just just from the zoom out, it's like fucking bastards. I need to check the split second to see when that changed over. That was so well done. Or even when Picard's going out of the turbo lift and he's immediately in a space shuttle, it was like, oh the fuck, that was weird. And again, just the way it's done is so well done. Again, effects wise, some of the kind of like the stuff with the Borg where like, you know, the phaser doesn't work and it's just like there's no like indication of is it working or not. That type of very small stuff with that. The torpedoes as well, as you said, just like not registering a hit when it should, that type of deal. Again, stuff like they just didn't iron out at the time, you know, until they did later on with hindsight. So for that reason, a bit of a mixed bag. But overall, the effects to get the Borg over, I think, was very, very successful. Yes. And like I said, carving up the ship was one they have never done before since.
That for me was particularly good in terms of how it looked. Even before the HD update, I think it looked fantastic because you know how serious it is. That cutting beam took away a couple of pieces of deck. We're not talking about like outer hull. We're talking about decks where people are 18 people died. You know, so I thought that was particularly good. The cutting beam, the tractor beam of the Borg as well. Obviously, that changes slightly over the years, and it turns more green. It was more kind of a yellowy white in this episode.
Combo of everything,
and then it goes green further on, and then you've got the very first Borg weapons that you see.
Yes.
In terms of those. I don't know what we call them, say torpedoes or maybe disruptors, something along the. I think more along the lines of disruptors. Absolutely, you do see them. You don't see them against the Enterprise again. You see more so the tractor beams and cutting beams that you see against the Enterprise. You do see those disruptors in Best of Both Worlds when the Borg is fighting off the Mars defense. Kind of automated defense. Because it fires on those, and then you don't see them again. Then you don't see them in First Contact. You don't see them in Voyager because they're looking more. Yeah, they're going more so with torpedoes because the Borg start using torpedoes in Voyager. Torpedoes, cutting beams again. So it's effectively Borg's phasers, green phasers, and then the tractor beams. But I thought in this, introducing the very first time you see them. Very, very good. I thought, really, really good effects in this.
Yeah, same. I'm going to give this 8 or 9 myself again. I'm swaying towards 9 for a couple of reasons. One, I think the actual Borg getup was very unique, very standout, like intimidating in a sense where like it looks so uncomfortable and garish and unpleasant. like I said, there was a great H.R. Geiger vibe of everything with the Borg. You can see it was very heavily inspired by that.
Oh, 100%, yeah. But you
Yeah.
also do get a sense, and exactly what you're saying there, the very uncomfortable looking, that almost gives me a sense of Darth Vader.
Yes.
You know, the uncomfortableness and the look of it, the dark, the prosthetics and things like that. I've always loved the Borg. If there's one costume I could do, it's definitely a Borg. Well, there's two costumes that I would be dream, and one of them would be the full Borg costume. Combination though of classic Borg and then the newer style Borg, kind of the rubber.
The rubber chest
the
plates.
rubber chest plates, and then leading into the feet, kind of more boots and trousers and stuff like that, all rubber. So really, really, really good. The design I thought was fantastic. You're really drawn to the arms of a Borg, especially the prosthetic arms with the moving parts. Always particularly like that. Especially when we will see in the next episode when Picard has it, and you're really, really drawn to it whenever he's using the arm. I 8 to a 9 as well, I think.
I think we're gonna go 9 on that one, I think.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Now score. This is an interesting category for me.
It's a mixed bag, I think.
I was going slightly negative on this one, and I'll tell you why. Because the actual parts where like the music does kick in for the Borg, yes, 100% top notch, yes, everything else, but it misses the tone at the end and at the start for me.
Completely. The start I didn't mind because you don't know what's coming.
Yes.
Because, it starts off as a normal Star Trek Next Generation episode. Oh, la-di-da. Oh, she just spilled coffee on Picard. Isn't that funny? Then we get serious.
Yes.
And then it brings it in. And you get the music of when they first engage the Borg. And I'm going to put that ambient noise into that as well, because that is part of it as well. That is a part of it as well. Fantastic sound, fantastic music when they first engage them, and then when they're trying to get away, it's a bit more ominous, a bit like, are they going to get away? Is Q going to help them? And then brings them back and like, you're not ready. You're still not ready, Mr. Crusher. There didn't see any seriousness at all.
No.
In that scene, Mr. Crusher set course for Starbase 80, and then the nice happy music again, lads. Now he's missed the point there.
Exactly.
Completely missed the point. At that point, you should have had that conversation with Guinan that they were coming. At that point, it should have been the real like ominous, like it's very, very low tones, very, very ooh.
You know what? Do you know what's a great comparison about how they did learn from their mistakes? Yeah, and I get like the actual like the happy everyone's fine ending is a Gene Roddenberry staple, because literally no matter what happens in the original series, it always ends with like the three lads having a punchline at the end, because that's the way he loved those times of sitcoms like fucking Mr. Rogers where everyone's okay in the end. And look, I get that it was a sign of the time as well. With Next Generation, now that you're introducing a new enemy like that, and don't get me wrong, with Conspiracy, they did an ending like that where like they're coming. And there was no happy music to end. It was like, I just blew up a fucking captain and caved his chest in. I'm not having any happy music. So the fact that he didn't do that again for this episode kind of says to me that they didn't quite treat the Borg as seriously themselves until they went back and realized how good an idea that was. And again, a great comparison of it, when they learned from their mistakes, DS9, when the Odyssey is destroyed. There is no happy ending in that. There is no like, oh, well, Captain Sisko and his son survived another day. Tune in next week for the adventures of Captain Sisko. It's like, no, fuck off. You just seen a Galaxy class destroyed by a suicide run. No happy ending. This is coming. This is a threat. And that's when they learned from their mistakes.
You look at, let's take that episode. You look at the Federation. You look at Starfleet. What are their most powerful ships? The most powerful ships are Galaxy class. Yes. They are effectively the battleships of Starfleet. They are. Because there's nothing else as powerful as them in all of Starfleet.
And bigger as well.
And bigger. And they just got taken out by 3 tiny little bug ships. And that's what they are. They're effectively bug ships. Tiny little bug ships. Their weapons were down. Their shields were down. The Dominion didn't have to do what they did. They could have blown them up by shooting them more. They decided to show them exactly who they were. We're going to blow up one of your most powerful ships by ramming the fucker, because we don't care. because they don't care. And that really set the tone, especially not just for that episode, for the whole Dominion. We'll do what we want. We will do what we need to. Yeah, we'll do what we need to. And the backbone of the Federation being a Galaxy class, that's their most powerful ship. So if anything else comes up against us, we're fucked.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why Cisco went, there's actually something there that we could actually use.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit overpowered, but I'm sure a plucky young Irishman could sort it out for me. He does. And creates something that is only as big, or it's not even the size of the saucer section of a Galaxy class. And it would be as powerful as a Galaxy class.
But no Achilles heel either. There's nothing where you can aim at it. Like in the same way, like every Federation ship has a bridge. That's like, hey, look at me, I'm a weak point, you know. Or like, oh, hey, look at these nacelles, look at my arms. Don't cut my arms off, you know. With the Defiant, there's none of that. And
again, the Defiant, we're coming back now to the Borg. The Defiant was designed to fight the Borg.
Yeah.
It was designed as a new task force. You were going to see dozens of these ships go up against a single Borg cube and probably knock the shit out of it.
Probably, yeah. Well, if battles of the Sector 001 was anything to go by, those Akiras and and Nebulas were doing pretty fucking decent amongst them. Now they're getting like destroyed, but there was enough of to say that wave of ships had stopped the advance of that Borg cube.
You had in Sector 001 that battle from First Contact. You had Defiant, you had Akira, you had Saber, you had Norway, you had Nebulas, you had Galaxies, and then you've got the Sovereign coming in. So there was some really, really mostly new ships, so all designed with technology to fight the Borg,
exactly,
and specifically the Borg. And when the Sovereign first flies in there, they suffered 40%. I think damage for 40% of their outer hull.
Yeah,
that's huge.
Yeah,
they've received damage. Like the original cube that went to Sector 001 or Wolf 359. What did I get that right? Wolf 359.
Well, the cube from Wolf 359 is destroyed anyway.
Yeah.
So this is a new cube.
But that what I mean is that cube had no damage.
No,
there was no damage. Nothing, no damage done to it whatsoever. The Enterprise was able to slow them down because they modulated their phaser frequency. That all it did was knock out the tractor beam. That's all it did. Yeah. There was no other damage other than the fact that they were able to blow it up in the end. Whereas this cube in First Contact had 40% damage to its outer hull from these ships. So clearly the technology and the fact that they had been developing weapons designed for the Borg had come along. I imagine if we were to get an update on that into like the Picard era, I would imagine with technology brought back from the Delta Quadrant.
Well, let's say that's the Zheng Heis and the Inquiry classes. Those are those are just actual they're just heavy cruisers, and there's just fleets of them. Now, granted, that's because the shipyards are all destroyed as well. But they just said, "Fuck it, let's just repopulate the fleet with all of these ships and just get the numbers back up, and then we can start being creative again with our ship design." Yeah. We don't have time for that. Let's just get all the fucking Zheng Heis out of the way and just get the fleet back up and working type of deal. So I do see what you mean there. So go back to the scoring.
Went on another fucking rant there.
I tell you, look, we're getting all of them in tonight, lads. I tell you, God help us, we're doing best of all worlds. Be fucking 4 hours long.
So, in terms of score, starts off standard. Really gets into it when we get to the Borg. Takes a dump at the end. So for that reason, this is not a high one. So it's 6 to a 7 for me.
I was gonna say 6.
Yeah, we'll go with 6. We'll go with 6 then. Unfortunately, it seems to be the one thing that lets this episode down, which is a nice little la. We're all okay. Let's go to Starbase 80 and play some Dabo.
Yeah, let's go to Starbase and just refill the ship.
We can get another 18 people. It's fine.
That's all right. We don't need a new saucer. We'll just repair with the parts we have. The fuck. Anyway. He said, "Sorry, little Jimmy, I'm afraid your mother was taken by the Borg. Happy Halloween."
Jesus. This took a dark turn.
It did. But whatever. That's why they had the happy music at the end, so you didn't have to think of the Borg taking your mother. To be fair, if it took my mother, the Borg would be fucking dead. Davey,
Yeah,
the
mine
one
as well.
thing
She'd
don't
take her
in
shoe.
invasion is an Irish mammy. You are
Yeah.
fucking dead if you happen
Yeah,
to score.
my mother would take her shoe off, and that'd be the end of it. Get the fucking fucker.
Can you imagine an Irish mammy up against the Borg Queen? Just there going like,
She'd be like, turn the
get
ship
that
around. Let's
fucking
get the
out of
fuck out
you.
of here. Turn the ship around. Let's get the fuck out of here. Absolutely.
That's what we do is we get fucking Orla Berry from the Star Trek Picard, have her as an Irish mammy go up against the Borg Queen. She essentially is an Irish mammy as a Romulan. So I mean, there's nothing different in casting there.
I found that very strange. Like, she's got an Irish accent.
An Irish Romulan, yeah, why not?
Irish Romulan, okay.
Cheeky feckers. All them tell Shi'ars, they're dodgy boys altogether, aren't they? Oh, Jesus.
Dirty shower of bastards.
Picard, do you ever drink that fucking soup or I'll knock the hell off you again? Get up into your room and pet that dog.
Jesus Christ.
Anyway,
Next.
Scene is where we're next. So, again, prominent scenes and scenes we think didn't work. I have one big one in this one of scenes that I don't think really worked, and that was the Borg nursery.
Yes, I don't think
Everyone's with us.
I don't think it was necessary.
And it was redundant as well, because we know now that they assimilate people. So like Borg aren't born. If they are, they're assimilating babies, which is possible. But oftentimes we see them assimilating adults, which is probably because they're ready-made. You don't have to develop a fucking Borg baby. Yeah. So very redundant scene, and is the kind of one contradiction in the Borg, the lore, if you like, because they don't.
Saying that though, there is maturation chamber in Voyager.
Yeah, that's an evolution of that.
Yeah, there is a baby. There is a baby of in that one.
Yes.
But the Borg are more insidious. They don't have kids. They assimilate people. You know, exactly. That's the way it is. So yes, I think that was it wasn't needed. They didn't need to do that because they later went with. But I think again they were just. This is just a product of the time. They didn't know what way they were going with the Borg yet. They didn't know there were going to be people that were being assimilated. They thought as soon as they're born, they're turned into cyborgs, effectively. Yes. You know, so we didn't know exactly how we were going to get there, but we got there in the end. Obviously, Borg comes from the word cyborg, and that's of course what they are. In terms of scenes, give me anything with the Lancy, absolutely amazing.
And Goldberg actually as well.
Yes.
Just the way she kind of carries the scene, the fact that like her vibe throughout those kind of scenes are very kind of like a fatality to everything. It's a case like, now granted, we do see going a little bit in a sense. We don't have quite a read of her character just yet, but the fact that there was such a very different tone already in this episode makes you think, oh well, if this special guest guy doesn't like them, well then, who am I to disagree with her? Type of deal, you know. Because even I think in some of the episodes beforehand, she asked like, you know, you ever wonder why like me and Picard are best friends? No, let me tell the story someday. As we know, there's a reporter, there's a reason why she's on the ship, type of deal. So yeah, the fact that she's in it and prominently is always very good. In terms of a really prominent scene, you probably see the first time they're on the Borg ship and everything's bumbling around them and just they're not a threat and they're not an issue.
They're nobodies on the Borg ship. Unless they started doing something, they are literal nobodies. They don't care that they're there.
To be blanked by the enemy is the worst part. That's I think.
Well, from Worf, it certainly was. He's like, "Come on at me, bitch! Yeah. Come on! What? No, don't just walk. No, get back here now and fight me."
No, Borg are ignoring me.
Mommy, let me down. I wait till I get them dirty Borg bastards.
An Irish mammy Klingon. Now you're taking the piss, Jerry. Fucking hell. That's a terrifying.
I'm sorry, but aren't all Irish mammies Klingons?
They are very
because they're all mad, vicious bastards.
And they won't fucking leave you alone as well.
The fact that my own mother is probably going to watch this and she's going, "Oh, I get that little bollocks."
I remember that now. Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah. Get me fucking battlet, huh? I tell you now.
She won't need a battlet. She just need the wooden spoon.
That's it. Well, that is a battlet to them, to be fair. Depends on who wields it. So seeing, if I was to give a number, again, I'm docking points to the Borg nursery. I'm kind of going for 7 on this one.
I will go with 7 as well. There's some good scenes, especially the Q scenes, because Delancey's performance is always fantastic. So I didn't want to mark it down too low. So I think a 7 is fair.
Yeah, I think so too. Next up is character. So again, we were talking about development, how they were presented, if they were right or wrong type of deal. So again, big points to Guinan, big
100%.
points to Q.
Mhm.
I'm taking points away from Picard for the way he was written in this episode. Because again, you were saying there, it does kind of make sense from an aspect of like he's sick of Q, so he's acting arrogant and smug, but that is not a Picard trait at this point.
No.
Arrogant, hubris, you can argue with. Yes, he has a kind of ego and pomposity that you've seen in the first season, but Q has already knocked him down a few pegs from that point. So the fact that he's now suddenly kind of like acting kind of like a defense up again kind of tells me that like he was written deliberately so that he could be knocked down a few pegs again. So, and again, especially considering that like towards the end he is like, I need you. It's a case of like, yeah, we've done that part and we've admitted it. He has admitted he's fucked up himself, and we move on from there. So I'm docking kind of points the way just like it just wasn't consistent, considering like someone like Picard shouldn't do that after his experiences with Q. If Q is being serious, he should be serious. If it was Riker in that role, yes, 100% makes sense, because Riker's already gone, you've already made me a Q, clicking your fingers, like I'm done that part, kind of way. If it was anyone other than someone who's meant to be the steady-headed captain, it would have made sense. But for him, I don't think it was. And that was my kind of negative trait in that. But otherwise, Q carrying the scene was fantastic. Guinan being that kind of like, the fatality, as I said, was really good as well. But again, I'd like to hear what your thoughts on that are.
I kind of agree with you, especially when it comes to Picard anyway. It's not something that we expect from him. We expect him to be a bit more reasoned, whereas I genuinely do believe it's because he's just sick of Q at this stage.
If that was the reason,
they were put on trial at the start of season 1, and then they come along and Q comes along and starts fucking with him again and makes Riker a Q, and it's like, you know what, Q, I'm sick of it. You're always coming in here accusing us of this, that, and the other, and blah blah blah. We're ready, but he's almost challenging Q. He's like, we're ready.
Yeah,
fuck you. He's basically giving them a big middle finger, is what he's doing, and Q punishes him for that, and he really takes him down. Not a peg or two, but a few, because the fact that because of Picard being as arrogant as he was, it's cost the lives of his crew. But it's given them valuable information, because we've seen that the Borg were around.
Yes.
And had they encountered them without this knowledge, I know that, the fleet was destroyed with Wolf 359, but eventually they did win because of the valuable information that they'd gotten before. Had they not had that information, Federation space would be Borg space now. Exactly. There probably wouldn't be any Federation, Klingons, Romulans, they'd all be gone.
Yeah.
How are you marking it?
I'm thinking 7 myself, because like I said, there's strong points for it's going and Q, but the way Picard was portrayed throughout the episode was a means to an end. It wasn't meant to be consistent. There's a case of like Q is taking the kind of the moral high ground here, because if you see it from his point of view, he is kind of trying to help out humanity here, because he can see the lay of the land here. If they're going to be caught with their pants down with the Borg, then he has no Picard to play with. He has no humans to annoy. So he has to give them a warning. But he also has to do it in a way that these humans will digest it and react to it, because he's already learned humans are a reactive race. They will respond, and they'll be able to respond adequately to to a threat.
Well, you look at what you said earlier on as well, is that Q effectively stops them from killing themselves when they go to fire on the Borg ship, because they've no shields. If they fire torpedoes, it could damage the Borg ship, probably won't, but the resulting explosion will destroy the Enterprise, and Q stops them.
Exactly, yeah.
He stops them, and you're like, really, just ask. Ask for my help here. Just ask.
That's the thing. He's goading Picard into saying he's using Picard's ego against him here. But again, my point is that there shouldn't be that much of an ego to begin with at this point. But again, that's neither here nor there.
It took him too long.
Precisely. Yeah. But it was a case of like Q knows that the wrong lesson would have been learned if the Enterprise would have been destroyed, because it was a case of like, no, you need to survive. You need to show that starbase that there is a section of your saucer missing, because that's what the Borg can do to your ship. Your ship had shields. It cut through your shields and it pierced and took whatever it wanted. It could have taken more of the ship if it wanted to, but it wasn't. It was a warning. So that's the way I look at it. So yeah, in terms of that, then obviously Q gets all the points, but Picard doesn't get the points. So it's kind of a yin yang situation. They kind of cancel each other out a bit. I'm going to go with a 7 myself.
Yeah, I'll go with you on that. I'll go with 7 as well.
And for me, this one is a very easy category. Consequences. It's an automatic 10. It's
100% 10, because the consequences of this gives us the greatest villains in all of Star Trek. Now, that's arguably greatest villains, because people will say, no, the Klingons are the greatest villains. I prefer the Klingons as allies than villains. I love the alliance and the friendships that you see growing in Deep Space Nine, especially. Between the Federation and the Klingons, even a little bit between Picard when he's Arbiter of Succession in the Next Generation. I love the fact that they're joined like that. So I don't see the Klingons as their biggest foes. The Romulans, the fact that we never really got to see the Romulans and the Federation fighting.
Yeah, like they're
really ever like the whole Next Generation. You don't really see them fighting. You see one episode where there's a frozen Romulan ship and it's firing at the Enterprise, and that's a frozen Enterprise, and that's all you see in terms of conflict.
Yes, that was very good.
That's all. That's the only thing you see. The only time that we actually see the Federation and the Romulans fighting, in terms of the kind of slightly older series, we won't talk about Enterprise, because they weren't even Romulan ships really. They were unmanned ships. Yes. The only time we ever see the Romulans and the Federation fighting is in Voyager, and that message in a bottle. And it's two Defiance and the Kira against 3 Romulan warbirds. And then the Prometheus is there. That's the only time you ever see the Romulans and the Federation fighting.
You can also say Bands of Terror from the original series, where Mark Leonard is squaring off against Captain Kirk. That kind of like...
Well, that you see, I think the Romulans are more prominent in the original series than they are in anything else.
Yes, that's true.
Especially in the Next Generation, because you do see a lot of the Romulans, but they're just being sneaky fuckers.
Yeah, that's it.
That's all they're being. They're just being sneaky fuckers. Yeah. Whereas they're a bit more direct in the original series. They did have those, but the newer ones, you only see them fight once, so you wouldn't consider them their biggest foes. I genuinely think the Borg are the Federation's biggest enemies.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
So in terms of consequences, the consequences are huge.
Yeah,
absolutely huge. From everything from what we're going to be watching next, to exactly how and why Benjamin Sisko is the way he is.
Yeah,
without the Borg, we don't get the Ben Sisko that we got.
No,
without the Borg, you get a much happier Ben Sisko that wouldn't have wanted that assignment in the first place.
Yep, exactly.
He needed something to distract him from the fact that the Borg had killed his wife. Then you've got the fact that 7 seasons of Voyager would have been cut down to 3 or 4, because without the Borg, it'd have been shit.
Here's one for you, right? As a consequence, how's this for a butterfly effect going back in time, right? Without this interaction, without the Starfleet, like basically getting word of the Borg arriving at some point, we got Wolf 359. The ship is the cube is destroyed. When the Borg come back into Earth, into space, and they're going for Earth, Battle of Sector 001, right? The cube is destroyed. The sphere goes back in time. The Enterprise E follows through, right, in the wake of the sphere. Then we meet Zefram Cochrane as James Cromwell, and we get all this other stuff. He launches the Phoenix, goes in, does his warp drive. He sees the silhouette of the Enterprise E and goes, "Oh, that's a nice looking spaceship." And what ship is built after that? The NX-01 Enterprise. That all wouldn't have happened unless Q told Picard about the Borg.
Yeah, I agree.
So in essence, Q, by a various levels of amount of butterfly effects, created the Enterprise.
Yeah.
How weird is that?
Effectively created
the Federation.
The Federation.
Yeah.
If you look at it like that. So that way, yeah. Even though Q might seem meddlesome, he's actually the reason the Federation are there.
Yeah. Funny how that
If
works,
you want to
isn't
look at it like that,
it? Yeah,
I think that's cool.
isn't it?
So
Yeah.
huge consequences, 10 marks, 100%.
100% 10. Yeah, absolutely. So we do the 10 and we get left a score. Again, going with scoring, a very neat episode overall. A very consistent episode. And it only seems appropriate that the final scoring, Jerry, is an 80 out of 100. So it ranks 4th in our seating so far. Obviously, In the Pale Moonlight, not challenged this week, still on 91. You still have The Skin of Evil and the Andorian Incident on 83. And Q-Who ranks 4th on our list now, ahead of the likes of The Battle and Conspiracy and various others.
I'm not going to say disappointed. I'm slightly surprised. I thought we were going to get 84, 85. I thought it was going to be definitely coming in for second. So to come in 4th, I'm a bit surprised about. But
yeah.
I think it's where it needs to be. It's definitely it's not best episode ever, but it's certainly not the worst either. It's quite a good episode. The consequences of this episode have huge ramifications for the entire Federation and for the shows themselves. Definitely, the fact that we even got Borg, the fact that we got Borg in the new Picard series, and we're going to see more in the second season because they have a queen.
They do.
They keep the queen. And then we're just going by trailers here, so if people haven't seen the trailer as well, it's your own fucking fault. Yeah. But yeah, lots to come, and the fact that we're still getting Borg. Yeah. I think they were Discovery were. They never said it, but they were definitely going along the same lines of that.
Control.
The Control was very Borg-like, and that Control could have very well been the beginning of the Borg.
They have had a bit of a running theme of rogue AIs, and it's kind of been like a something they've nicked off other like things like Mass Effect and stuff like that. Because you have like the Geth and you have Reapers and stuff like that. The Reapers is very clearly the Borg, obviously. So it kind of like one has inspired the other, and now it's vice versa, But yeah, I do, because they also had like from Control, and then in Picard you had the kind of like those weird like synths that kind of appeared from a parallel like universe dimension or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that's a big pin. Someone keep an eye on that. Is that like a thing we should be worried about? Next season? Okay, next season, fair enough. Okay, that's that kind of thing. But yeah, and like I said, there's still Borg galore in Star Trek, and there's Borg galore coming up on this show, Jerry Soul, because our 10th episode is coming up, and as we said earlier on, we're doing something special for every 10 episodes. And what better way to start off the 10th episode than with a double header? And we can only do one real double header in this. The perfect setup by Q-Who, the assist to the goal, if you will. And the goal this time is best of both worlds.
The inspiration for the name of this show is our next episode.
It is.
And this I think will be the first real test of the 91 marked in the Pale Moonlight. This will be the first tests of the title of number 1 episode so far. This will be I think Pale Moonlight's gonna. I think this is gonna put up against Pale Moonlight. I don't think it's gonna beat it.
I think it's gonna be close,
but I think it's gonna be very close.
Yeah, because bear in mind as well, the way we're doing the scoring is that we are judging the entire episode, both parts. So if it's a case of one part is really good and the other part is really naff, it's a balanced score. It's a level scoring. So that's the key part there. That's the exciting sting in the tail of this. So. And of course, all the 2-parters are great. Name me one bad two-part you can't. Shut up. So yeah. See, it's hard, isn't it? It's actually tough to name a bad 2-parter.
We just won't talk about Voyager then.
Or Discovery.
I'd rather just not mention that at all.
Exactly. So anyway, that's how it's playing out, lads. So next episode you're going to see from us in the new year is going to be best of both worlds. What better way to start 2022 with that then? And we've already, before off camera, we've already had discussions on where we're going next after this. So you'll find out after that episode, because it's a spicy meatball in that sense.
A spicy meatball.
Very spicy indeed.
There's no Italians involved. I'm sorry.
No Italians at all. Well, there's a few racist characters every now and then, but that's neither here nor there. It was a start at the time. But anyway, Jerry, thank you very much for this episode again. Always a pleasure. And yeah, stay tuned for next time on the Best of Both Worlds. Where we are going, this is Best of All Worlds. We're going to watch Best of Both. You see, I'm already confused. This is not going to work.
Yeah.
let's watch something else instead. But no, either way, guys, thank you very much for watching this episode. Hopefully you've been enjoying. Do you agree with our scoring? Of course. Do you agree with Q-Who being worse technically than the Skin of Evil on the Endor Listen? Let us know in the comments. Please do. We'd love to hear from you. And if you have your own suggestions on future arcs, then please let us know in the comments as well. Do all the usual YouTube stuff, like sharing, subscribing, or you will make Jerry Soul cry. And come on, lads, it's Christmas. Do you really want to make Jerry Soul cry before Christmas?
You can't do that, lads. Come on, like, comment, share, subscribe. Please do it all. It's just helping us out, trying to get out to more people, so more people will watch the show. And there, where we get more ideas, more people on board, and everyone is happy. Everyone's better off. So please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And if you like it, then we'll know.
Exactly.
Then we'll
know.
You know. But ladies and gentlemen, a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to every one of you out there.
Absolutely.
And thank you for supporting the show and the channel so far. And hopefully 2022, I hate saying this, but 2022 will be our year.
It's a year or so. I've nailed it. We're doing the branding and everything. I got shirts printed, man. What are you on? I've got shirts printed right here. Oh, we're not doing the shirts, are we?
No, we're not. No. It's the jackets that we're doing. Sorry.
Anyway, on that sour note, on that bitter disappointment, it's time to end. I think you're lying. I'm sorry.
Yes, you did, you bastard. The sheer fucking hubris.
So lads, on that note, we'll see you on the next episode. And as always,
live long and prosper.